Rebecca of BexxFineArt, and I'm bringing you the first video of my Kids Craft series for those of you that are stuck at home because school is closed, which is probably everybody. For those of you that don't know, I was actually a junior high art teacher for 3.5 years, an adult painting instructor for 4.5 years, and currently I work at the Idea Museum, which is a children's museum in Mesa, Arizona. This is my museum attire, so I'm representing since I'm stuck at home as well. So for today's video, we are going to be making homemade scratch paper, which is really cool and it's super easy to make. You should probably have all these supplies at home if you have kids. If not, it's really easy and really cheap to go get. So let's take a look at our supplies. So here is a close-up of the supplies you'll need. Super easy stuff. Paper plates, obviously. This is my paper plate that's drying right now. Something to put your paint on. This is my palette that I use for everything. Look how thick with paint that is. Crayons, the brand doesn't matter, but I am using Crayola. A brush, probably a big thick one. And then some black paint. It does not need to be any specific brand. The one I'm using is Craftsmart acrylic. It's very cheap. You can get it at Michael's or Hobby Lobby and maybe Walmart. I'm not totally sure. But you can also use tempera paint, and probably finger paint is fine for this. Okay, so our first step is we're going to take our blank paper plate and we're going to cover almost the whole thing with our crayons. You probably want to leave a little bit of a white ring around it, that way your fingers don't get covered in black paint. Plus, as you can see from my example, we have the ridges on these plates usually, so it's not ideal to be scratching all the way up here, but if you want to, you're more than welcome. And the important thing when coloring your plate is you really want to push those crayons down hard. As my elementary art teacher used to say, make the crayons work. So that'll give you the most really vibrant colors on here. That'll look really awesome once you scratch off that black paint. These are the colors that I'm going to be using for my plate. I'm gonna do just a simple rainbow theme. My other plate was kind of tie-dye, which you'll see at the end of the video. And I'm sorry, these are all the crayons that I have. Now when I say make your crayons work, what I mean is you really want to push them down nice and hard. You're probably honestly gonna get a finger cramp doing this. So that's nice and vibrant. Here's an example of how people usually color. You can barely see it, and we don't want that for our scratch paper because it's just not gonna be as pretty. So really make sure that you are pressing those crayons down nice and hard and get a hand cramp. All right, I'm gonna do a quick time lapse of the rest of this video. Around and around, 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 around and around. So now comes the fun painting part. Here is my plate before, here's my plate after, here's my acrylic black paint. Again, any brand of paint is fine. You can use tempera, finger paint, whatever. And for this, you'll need to do 2 layers of black paint. You're more than welcome to do more than 2 if you like, but it's best to do 2 because the first layer will usually be pretty thin and you'll probably see some of the crayon through that. So make sure you at least do 2. And the last supply that you'll need is a blow dryer, so that way it goes quickly. Otherwise, if you don't have a blow dryer, you can always fan it to air dry. Just make sure, again, that it's a thin layer of paint. That way you're not flinging black paint all over yourself. All right, let's go ahead and cover our drawing. So as you can see, this is my first layer and it is a little bit thin. You can see the streaks of the paint. And if you look close, you can actually see the colors, like I've got my pink over there. So that's why it's necessary to do 2 layers. And again, if you want to do 3 or 4, you're also welcome to do that. The tools that I'm gonna test out scraping with. I know not everyone may have an X-Acto knife, so I found just a couple other things from around the house. A fork, I'm sure will work perfect. This is a skewer for barbecuing, and then a couple toothpicks. So we're gonna test out and see what kind of marks they will make and which one scrapes the best. All right, so first I'm going to test out my fork. And I'm just going to do some scraping around the outside. Yes, perfect. So this just works really nice for texture. So if you have a really little one and they're not really going to be drawing, this might be your best option just to kind of do something fun with them. And let's try the skewer. So I'll try both ends of the skewer. Perfect. The pointy end obviously works really nice. And let's go ahead and do the round end. The round end just gives us some nice thicker lines, which if you are doing this with a child artist, they will probably appreciate. Our toothpicks, I can tell, will be really good for just like some nice detail lines. So pretty similar to the pointy end of the skewer, but you can really get some fine details in there. And then obviously we can probably assume the X-Acto knife is going to work pretty well. If you have an X-Acto knife and you have a more advanced artist, like maybe junior high or even high school or younger if you trust them. I was using an X-Acto knife in 2nd grade. This works really good for really fine details, as you can see. And then it also allows you to scrape bigger if you push it along the long side of it. So, super easy to make this scratch paper, and you can see it really works perfectly. Look at that. And you don't even have to use a paper plate for this, but you'll probably need a thicker piece of paper. So copier paper will probably tear pretty easily when you're doing the scratching. So if you happen to have thick watercolor paper or cardstock, that'll also work. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video of how to make your own scratch paper. The next video that I'll be posting tomorrow is how to make your own marbled paper, which you can use for greeting cards as well as really cool drawing and craft paper once it's dried. It's also a little bit messy for those of you that like that. I'm sorry ahead of time for those of you that don't. And please feel free to comment on this video with any other kids crafts or art tutorials that you'd like to see. I have a whole list that's running, so I'm happy to add to it and try anything. Maybe your idea is so good that I'll bump it up to the top of my list. And I will do my best to post a video a day. That way your kids are entertained and have a cool art project to do in your free time. Please hit that like and subscribe button for me. I appreciate all of you that do it. And if you want to see any of my personal art, it's on Instagram and TikTok that are both at BexxFineArt. All right, see you guys tomorrow.
Well, here's a surprise. You're not what I bargained for. I'm finding your face in